Hi, and welcome back to yet another episode of Can You Hear Me Now? I'm your host, Lady Madelyn Patterson, faith led, purpose driven, voice empowered. You know, I really enjoy spending time talking to people, getting to know people, and got a very special guest today. His name is Mr. Arthur Bell, whom I've had the pleasure of being in ministry with at our church where my husband serves as pastor. But today we're going to get a little bit more in depth with Mr. Arthur Bell, the man, the legend, Arthur Bell. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so glad that you are here now. We have a little simple conversation,
All right.
not too stressful. But I want to know a little bit more about who you are. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was it like growing up in your community back home?
Okay. I was born in Bastrop, Texas, about 2 miles out of Bastrop, in a little community called Piney Creek. And it was a time when we were very poor and didn't know it because the community kind of served as all of us were our brother's keeper. And it was an enjoyable situation growing up as a kid. My grandfather, cut this off. My grandfather, he didn't have a real formal education, but he's one of the smartest individuals that I'd ever been around and ever known. And he would plow for these rich people, and I'd walk behind him as a little boy and it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And so, at age 5, around 5 years old, my grandstuff. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let me turn this off. If I can get it. Okay, one second. Give me 1 second. Now, my grandmother was a school teacher, teaching in a rural area, so she took me with her most of the time. And then, I was approximately 5 years old, we moved to Austin, Texas. And at that particular time, I went to Blackshear Elementary School, and then I was a Cub Scout, and that's about it. My elementary school days was fun. Like I said, I was a Cub Scout and just doing things. I don't know what my phone is doing.
Here, you want some help with that?
Yes, please. Will you take it?
Yeah, let me-
I'm trying to turn it off.
how do you-
I'm trying to get. Okay, it's off. It's totally off.
Turn
I'm
it
sorry.
off. Right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm multi-cam
Oh, you are? Okay, okay.
Okay. Now you can get on. Tell me what else you want to know.
Okay. Well, you mentioned, which I thought was interesting, your grandmother was a school teacher in a rural community. How did that shape your views on education and just, I can imagine being in a rural community. Like, what was school like?
Well, first of all, my mother had me when she was 14 years old.
Okay.
And back then, young women at 14 was considered grown almost, and nowadays that's out of question, but back then. And so I ended up growing up my mother went back home with her people, and I ended up being, for the first 7, 8 years, growing up with my grandmother. And so she would take me around to these rural communities where they had these small schools, and everything happened in one big room. And
Oh, like were all the ages together? Like,
yes, everything was together, and that was during the time, we didn't have the best of materials back then, because in rural areas we got whatever was left down and handed down to us. But it was the experience for me was such loving, because the community, everybody knew one another, and so we shared everything. If somebody was sick and the nearest neighbor was 2 or 3 miles away, it didn't matter. We all came together. If somebody killed an animal, they would share the meat, whatever. It was a sharing situation, and so that was to me an experience I'll never forget. because, like I said, it taught love and caring, and some of that I still carry over. Back then, children were taught to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And that was old school thinking, but
Yeah.
that's still with me.
That's still with you. No, that stuff. I love the fact that you were talking about community. It almost feels like that's kind of missing today. A little bit of the, hey, if I see my neighbor, we don't even know our neighbors anymore.
Okay, I've been in the same community, same area, same house for about 46 years, and I only know maybe 8 or 10 people in my, that's adjacent to me right around the corner. But but back then we were 2 or 3 miles apart, but everybody knew one another, and it was a sharing. We all went, most of us went same church. We shared. It was a sharing experience.
Wow. Now, it was when you said
We didn't have the luxury of having air conditioning and all these kind of things. Everything was, we could sleep outside. And the windows were open. It was
doors unlocked.
doors unlocked because there was no pollution. You didn't have to worry about. We didn't have anything for anybody to take, really. So it was, we kind of. It was just we were poor, but like I said, it was a good experience.
May have been poor financially, but rich in love and community.
That was where we were rich at.
Yeah.
Very rich there.
And sometimes that you can't even put a price tag
You can't put a price tag on that.
on that. And you said you came to Austin and went to Blackshear Elementary. That's where my sister went to school.
Is that correct? Right.
Now, when we got here in 1980, but we got bused to Blackshear
Oh, okay.
from Oak Hill.
Okay.
Now, was there busing going on at Blackshear? And
No. We rented a place, my grandparents did, and basically I was in walking distance to Blackshear, and so it was very convenient for me. And I never forget, the kids that grew up, we all left, when we left Blackshear, we all went to Keelan, and the same group went to Old Anderson High School.
so was Blackshear segregated?
Oh, no, this was
Was-
back.
was it-
You must remember now, we're talking about in the beginning of the 50s. So, no, and, matter of fact, Anderson, what you said, was it segregated?
Blackshear.
Yes.
Oh, Blackshear.
Integration hadn't hit.
Hadn't happened yet.
No, hadn't happened yet. So it was all black school. So was Keelan. So was Anderson. All, my years there, all 3 schools.
Wow. How was that? So the principal, the teachers, the students, the community, everybody was black
Right.
at that time.
Right. And so, we kind of policed our own community. Everybody knew, all the teachers knew not only the student, but knew the families too. So the worst case scenario in my school, when I look at what's going on today, in my school through elementary, junior high, the worst thing that could happen with young people is you'd have a fist fight or something, and once that was over, and the next day everybody was back loving. Now, when I look at it, it's so scary because, you send a kid to school and you know what's going to happen by the time they make it back home. If they
make it back home. Yeah,
But back then, if you discipline was, it started at school and then ended up at home, and everybody was a part of that process, which is different today.
That's
Same
true.
thing in our church.
Yes.
Back then in church, when I was young, if I had a problem, if it was a usher, some of the older members, they would take care of that problem right then and there, and the parents would then pick it up from there. Nowadays, I think you would agree that you have to be real careful what you say to somebody's child because it's different. It's a different problem.
It is. I remember being a kid. Now in the military, it was very similar too, because you're overseas or you just have that nucleus group. I will never forget. I was in kindergarten, first grade, and my mom and dad said, "Do not go down the street to your friend's house." What did Madeline do? Madeline went down the street to my
Research.
friend's house,
Oh, Lord.
and their parents called my parents. I got a whipping at their house.
Okay.
My daddy whipped me all the way back home, and then I got a whipping from my mom when I got home.
That, okay.
It was a community.
Same thing. Same identical thing.
Yeah.
You know, I would, and matter of fact, all the kids in my neighborhood, we would play, but one of the, you had a curfew. If don't let the sun go down.
Sun go down,
Yeah.
or those porch lights.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. So, you know, sometimes I look up and it looked like it was dark and running, trying to make it to the house because they had strict rules.
Yes. Wow. What? I know you were a child back then, but can you think back to what challenges did Black folks may have had during that kind of time frame in the 50s that you personally remember or think about?
Well, the main challenge for us is that that I experienced personally. I think I just mentioned to you that I followed my grandfather around because he was plowing for these rich people, and in that time frame in the 40s, in the early 50s, you know, we couldn't go to the front door. They'd bring food to us. You know, the people were nice, but you had to go to the back door to receive it.
Wait, at the grocery store?
No. He was plowing for rich people.
Oh, he was
You know,
plowing for them, okay.
Okay. You know, like they'd have maybe an acre or two, and he'd have a horse and a mule, and I'd walk behind, and he'd walk behind the plow, and I'd walk behind with him as a little boy. Well, sometimes they'd give us cookies or water or whatever, but you couldn't receive it at the front door. You had to go to the back door.
Really?
And all of that passed on. When we moved to Austin, downtown Austin, same thing. We couldn't eat in none of the restaurants downtown. That was an experience.
I think there was a store called Woolworths or something.
Woolworths, that was one of the main
Department
places,
stores.
department stores, and it had a bar like for sodas and stuff like that. But you couldn't eat there.
You couldn't eat there.
No, and at one time after I got married and got in the workforce, I ended up working for, I married at 63, but I ended up working for the Austin National Bank.
Okay.
And I was hoping and was told that I'd be their first black teller. Didn't happen.
Oh.
Because the circumstances, again, you know, it was a time when things were really tough for black people. And I was working in a mailroom, and they told me in 3 months that I'd possibly have a job as a teller. Anyway, we couldn't eat upstairs in the cafeteria. So we had a maintenance room that all the guys would meet at lunchtime. It'd be about 20 of us. And those guys, all of them had to wear a uniform and they had to wear a hat. And they took checks around to different bank locations. Well, they had some real serious issues about and complaints about the way they were treated, right? And I'm young, and this was during the time when the civil rights movement was at full blast, right? And so I'd listen to these older guys, and they would tell me stories about how they just so unhappy. And you know, I was kind of in the mailroom. I was a happy camper, and so I told them, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't y'all go to the top man, which is Mr. Dunbar, and say, we'd like to have a meeting with you. They said, will you do that? Sure. Went down. I requested a meeting for the guys and told him they had some grievances, some complaints. I said, okay, Arthur. And this is a true story. So I got back up there in the middle of the guys when the meeting was called, and I thought I was going to be conducting a meeting. He told me, no, Arthur, I don't want you to say anything. So he went around and he took the oldest guy had been there 25 years and said, I didn't know you were having a problem. And I guess the guy was frightened of his job. At this time, he's put on the spot. He said, no, I'm okay. And he went around. When he got through, I was left in a bad situation. So instead of having an opportunity to become a teller, I end up out in the parking garage getting up grease, as cars come through, myself and another guy. But God works in mysterious ways.
Doesn't he though?
I stayed there, and it so happened that IBM was in the process of building a plant here in Austin, Texas. And so I applied for a job with them, but I still didn't just jump up and leave the bank. And when I applied, I interviewed well, and they said, well, we think everything is good, and be prepared to go to Kentucky for training, because the plant hadn't happened, so they were sending people to Kentucky. I went home and told my wife, I said, golly, I got this job at IBM, and I'm going for training. And 2 weeks later, I got a call that said, we need to come in and talk to you. And it was the biggest letdown in my life, because they told me, based on what had happened at Austin National Bank, that you were a troublemaker and would not be an employee that, based on our policy, that we could hire. Now, that was really,
wow.
But God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
I went home and told my wife I was so disappointed. But that wasn't a plan for me. A month or two later, probation department was hiring. And
wow.
I was one of 40-something people. 3 of us were hired. And they hired me, and the rest is history. I needed about a year and so many months to get my degree. They went to the main officer and told me, hey, man, I'd love to go to school and finish up so I can be a full officer. And I said, I'll give up some things to do that. And they let me go to school, paid for it, because there was during the time when all these grants, there were a lot of opportunities back then,
Yeah.
the federal government. So the department paid so much, the government paid the rest. I left in the morning at 8 o'clock and went to St. Edward's University. Come back at 5 and checked in and worked a couple hours. And I finished and graduated in 76 and from St. Edward's. And the rest is kind of history. I worked there from until 78. And then in 74, I also started Killabug Pest Control.
Okay.
I had that going on, and I had, then I got, in 78, 79, I got hired as assistant director of a restitution center for the state. So for 10 years I did that, and that was I really enjoyed that particular job. And then still had Killabug, and so I decided to purchase a building on 12th Street.
Okay.
And take Killabug, and that was kind of that's kind of my history. And then along with that, I had some other things going along with pageants, and that we talked a little bit about. And then my church history was with New Lincoln, and I've been at New Lincoln now, 25, 26 years.
Wow.
And so that's been a good experience for me.
We had talked about your grandmother teaching you, and because you went and followed her, you entered college at 16.
Mm-hmm. Finished high school at 16.
Finished high school at 16, and then went to Prairie View.
Mm-hmm. I was a grown 16, though. Yeah, I was really grown 16. Had my own car in high school.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Bill.
Worked at Bergstrom Air Force Base.
Bergstrom?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do at Bergstrom?
I worked at Bergstrom in the cafeteria, and I gained the respect from an old sergeant, and he had me peeling potatoes. And what he would do is he liked me, so he'd give me all the fruit and vegetables and ice cream and everything I'd take home in the evenings, and that's how I bought my car. And I worked there a year or so, and it set a lot of things going.
Wow. Bergstrom, that's where my dad was stationed when he got here.
Oh, really?
Bergstrom Air Force Base in 1980.
And like I said, my grandparents, they died, and after they passed, I took care of them, and after they passed, bought my first home, my wife and I, and we had kids, and that's kind of a
Now, how did you meet your wife?
strange story. They moved down here. Her mother was a school teacher, and they moved to Anderson High School, and we were sitting side by side in school. And I guess I kept looking at her legs. Like I said, it was kind of comical, but anyway, the rest was history after that.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Kept looking at her.
Yeah, we sitting side by side, and so
So you weren't paying much attention.
no, I was a character to it. But that was fun days.
And now, when you saw her, you just knew she was the one.
Not really. It was just like we kind of start in high school. We kind of start seeing one another, and then the rest is kind of we just start kind of dating here and there, and
Yeah.
going to school functions, and then I went to Prairie View. Went to Houston Tellison first, and then I went to Prairie View after she got out of school, and we both ended up in Prairie View together.
Wait, what? Okay, wait.
So we both ended up in Prairie View together.
Wow. So you were at HT first,
I went to HT and waited on her,
and then waited on her.
and then we both we both went to Prairie View. And that's when I told you I was thinking about going to the military.
Right. And didn't go to the military.
No,
No. Which is a good thing.
which was a good thing. Everything kind of, God has a way of sometimes things are not for you. See, the IBM was not the thing for me, and it all turned out pretty good.
Yeah. And so in you said 73 or 76?
76, I graduated from college, and then in 74 is when I had Killabug. I started Killabug.
Wow.
And it was university was 76. That's why I graduated from college in sociology.
Sociology. But in 74, you opened up, created Killabug. Mm-hmm. What was that? So in 1974, at this time in Austin, it's integrated. Right now, we've got integration in schools. But you bought a building on 12th Street, which was a historically black area, correct? And
This was back though. When I bought this building, that was back in 99, 98, 99.
okay,
Remember, I went to work as assistant director of restitution center. Right?
that's right. The restitution.
So I
Center.
drew down my money and I put it all invested in buying this building, and it's amazing. Back then, I think, I'm sure we paid $59,000 for a building up there, and I thought that was the end of my life. I thought we'd never pay. That was a lot of money to me, and now to look. So I've watched the evolution of that area. I mean, it was when I moved there, it was pretty all black area, totally.
What were some of the shops in that area? Because now when I drive down 12th, I don't.
Back then, we had
don't
barber
see.
shops, we had beauticians, we had our own eating places. It was just a whole difference.
Was there a meat market there?
There's a meat market there and stuff like that.
Wow.
It just changed overnight. It just looked like woke up one morning and the whole thing.
Don't recognize it anymore. So I want to get a little bit personal. You what moments in your personal life are you most proud of?
Well, there's a lot of proud moments in my life. Coming together with my mother and having the relationship I had with my mother, and we were doing things as a family. We fished together and we did pageants together. Those were the moments that I cherish mostly.
Now
We did things together, like I said.
I love that. The thing I'm just getting from you is community, family, conversation, getting to know, sharing. That whole relationship is extremely important. And it's just foundational that you have. And you bring that even in your business. you bring in when you're as a deacon at New Lincoln, you bring it in just your community. So I'm loving the fact that you're sharing that
Well,
people get to see that.
and you asked me what were some of the moments in my life that I cherished.
Yeah.
There were some tough moments too. You know, we go through crises too, and I've been there
Yeah.
like that. Dealing with at one time, took care of my father. At one time, I think you realized I took care of mother and my mother
Yes.
and my wife at the same time. And without having been grounded and rooted in Christ, I don't know which direction I would have gone.
Yeah, and that's and I think that is something for us today. Like with all of the noise and distraction that's going on, it's so easy, right, to pay attention to all of that stuff. But you've got to stay grounded, like the word says, be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of water.
Exactly.
Because storms are going to come.
Exactly. And like I said, my church family and then my immediate family, and I have a good relationship with my baby daughter. I see every day, and then talk to one. And so I've been blessed to have the family resources and church resources. Those things I could always count on.
Yeah. On what? Share the story of how you got started in the pest control industry. I don't think people know how you got started.
Okay, the way I got started in
Yeah.
the pest control industry is this. Back in '63, I think the minimum wage was like $1 or something like that an hour. And so I was working 2 jobs because we had babies on the way. Both of us were working, my wife and I. And so this gentleman, we had a pest problem at the house. And so he came out and he treated the house. Well, I was watching them go around and treat the house. And so I asked him, I said, are you hiring? And he said, no, I can't pay anybody. And so before he finished, I said, well, I tell you what, just to learn, I'd work free for you. So he looked at me and he thought about it. I said, you don't have to pay me anything. I just want to learn. So he said, okay. And so for several months, I worked for him for nothing. And I brought him in business. And by this time, I had learned everything I needed to know and was ready to take the test. And I let him know that, hey, I've enjoyed it. I appreciate the training, and I'm getting ready to go. And so he said, oh, no, I tell you what, I'll pay you now. But now I don't need you to pay me anymore. So I told him, well, I'll help you here and there, but I'm going on my own. And so what I did then, I took the test, passed it, and the rest is history again. And I started my own thing. And then when I got to the probation department, I was working in '74. My supervisor, who she and I are still good friends, a lady by the name of Frances Cox, who went into business with me. And the goal is she was going to take care of all the paperwork, and I was going to handle everything on the ground. She was going to do all the bidding and stuff. But what happened is she got a job federal government, making a lot of money, and moved on and put in writing and gave everything back to me. And we've been friends ever since. And I just kept going with Killabug. Had ups and downs with that, and dealing with a whole lot of different things.
Man, you have just been in a lot of different areas. And I'm going to go back to the statement when you said you didn't realize you were poor. I think sometimes we, in this country, we can be very materialistic in looking at what quantifies richness, right? Mm-hmm. I've got these cars and I've got houses and all these things.
Okay, since you're saying that too, you have to look at the fact that I didn't have peer pressure either. If my parents bought me a pair of $1 tennis shoes, they didn't have to be Nike. I was just proud to get them. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Peer pressure nowadays, if a kid, you just can't buy anything, because all their friends are wearing these $300 shoes.
Right, right.
So back in my time, you appreciated whatever they could give you.
But wouldn't that be nice to get back to just being appreciate?
Well, not only that, I being in pest control, was able to observe some things that really got under my skin. I'd go in homes to where I'd be treating houses, and a parent would say, when you get back to that room, don't open it. That's Johnny's room. He doesn't allow us to go in there. And to me, being old school, that touched me like, oh, now, when you get to the point you got a room in my house, now that won't work here. But that's where we are now.
Yes.
And so what struck me about that is then when Johnny ends up with a gun in the room, and then there's trouble there, and then you wonder, I didn't know he had it. Well,
Right.
you wasn't in control of what was
Right.
going on in your house. So those are
Yeah,
kind of
it's
things.
the whole
But see, my
kids'
growing up was different.
privacy, and I mean, I appreciate that, but at the same time, on my roof, if I'm going to be held accountable for everything that happens, I'm going to know what's going on in my
I'm gonna know
house.
what's going on in my house, and I think that's where it should be now.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. What have we got here?
So it's just it's been a long road and a lot of experiences that I've gone through.
Were there any particular challenges back in the 70s, you think, starting a business as a black man in Austin?
First of all, the banks would not lend monies to minorities back in the 70s. They, for example, when I bought the building where I'm at, what I just sold a couple of years ago, SBA, Small Business Ministries, they sent some people out from Chase Bank. And just so happened, I thought, well, I'm going to get a loan to buy it, figure out a way to buy this building. So they were going to grant me the money. But there was stipulation. They said, okay, but we need to monitor you every 3 months to see how you're doing. And I'm saying, oh, wait a minute, wait now. I don't want you breathing down my neck. You're going to audit me every 3 months or whatever. You know, is that protocol? Is that what you normally do for? So I said, no, I don't want to do that. And I just won't call a name. It happened to be a friend, a black guy that I still would be friends, that had a lot of pull in a lot of places, high places. And so he told me, I told him what had happened I was working for him. And he told me, he said, you go back to Chase Bank and his card, you give this lady this card. And I went back and I gave her the card, and the rest is history. She told me, Mr. Bell, we'll give you a loan, and it was approved, and all that other stuff was out the door.
Wow.
So one of those kind of who you know kind of situation.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So, but back then it was very difficult for black men to get loans.
Did you ever have to deal with even showing up to his place and they didn't realize that you were you? And they turned you or
it goes deeper than that.
oh,
Basically, what I did is in the hiring process, I had a white guy working for me, worked for 15 years, and we would show up, and guess who they thought owned the business?
okay.
You know, I experienced that a lot. You know, it was really kind of funny.
Did y'all like play along? Like, okay,
Yeah, you know, but like I said, and then I had people ask me, well, why try him? Well, hey, you have to market your business all over town. You can't tell me, hey, this is how I'm making money.
right, exactly.
And I've had Hispanics. One time, Nashville Copos was one of the biggest builders in Austin, and a lot of small businesses relied on them. But then that's when I had about 7 to 8 people working for me, and I found out they were folding and people wasn't getting paid. And when they kind of went under, that's when the business slowed down. And I just had too many irons in the fire.
Yeah.
But I kept Killabug at us, and I'm still doing it.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who want to start a business?
Right off the top, don't even have to think about it. If you are a 8 to 5er, don't do it. Meaning, if you are the kind of person that work 8 to 5, you expect a check either the 1st or 15th, or you expect a check at the end of the month, don't do it. That's what I call an 8 to 5er. You know what I mean? But if you are the kind of individual that believe in yourself, you got the kind of personality where you can sell yourself, you have to sell yourself first, and that you will give it 100%, and time is not of that. You don't worry about time. Whatever it takes to make it go, you'll do that. But if you're an 8 to 5er, I say don't even
attempt it.
And don't attempt to go into some business that you are not skilled at. You don't have any kind of skills to make it go. For example, if you're going to go into, I want to detail cars, and that's what a lot of youngsters say. Okay, if that's your goal, then the reality is you're not going to really, your chances of going big are real slim. You should look at, I'm going to get a loan, and I'm going to have a facility where I can accommodate people coming in with 10, 15 cars at a time. That's the way to do it. But if you're just going to go and I'm going to detail some cars, then you, because people are going to go now, you can just drive
through and they'll take, yeah.
So know the business that you're going into, and have some kind of skill set to deal with it. I also tell youngsters too, people think that you have to have a college degree. Well, I face this. A lot of people with college degrees, especially in the social work field, or if you're a school teacher, whatever, the salary range is maybe at this state and time $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Well, have a plumber to come out to your house. Have an electrician to come out to your house, see what these guys are making. So I encourage you, there's
some of these specialty HVAC and all these other jobs are in need.
If you can become a good electrician or a good plumber, the money's there. Hey, I've had a plumber come out to the house, and the guy was there 15, 20 minutes, and they'll tell you $300, $400 real quick, or $500. So I'm just saying, we've always said, want my kid to, have to get a college degree, but that's, if that's not really you, there's other opportunities.
Absolutely. Now we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about New Lincoln.
Okay.
You serve as one of the deacons of.
I'm vice chairman of the deacon board.
Yes, you are vice chairman. What does that mean to you as it relates to New Lincoln and serving as a deacon?
Serving as a deacon, it's a servant role, and it gives you an opportunity to help serve the pastor in his vision for the church, and to work with the congregation and try to assist in making sure all the needs are met in the church.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have a good relationship, I think, with almost everybody there.
I think you do too. How has your faith kind of guided you through difficult times? Because for me.
Yeah. It's been some background that I haven't even talked about. I come out of a situation to where I could have gone the other way. My father spent most of his life in prison, almost all of his life. My grandmother, that's one that I promised her I'd never go to jail, because I saw her spend all her money trying to keep him out of prison. And he was the kind of guy that never had encouraged, taught me how to swim. But back in 1944, when I was born, and by the time I was 5 years old, the only thing a black man had available to him to go in a town was to a pool hall somewhere, and they gambled, and he got in trouble fighting and killed a guy. But went through all of that, and I told you I was raised by my mother. Had me when she was 14, and raised by my and never been abused. And God has kind of directed my path.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I'm blessed, and I made it to be 81 years old. So I thank him every night.
81.
I thank him every night. I thank him for what he's done. Even through my storms. I've been through so many storms now, I just figure like, well, hey, if it's there, I can handle it.
Yes, you can. I was just thinking 81. Wow, you have seen you've seen so much that I'm trying to go back 80 years in my mind in time, and going from using God's air conditioner, for example, no air in the house, to walking to school, to colored black and white TVs.
And not only that, anywhere you would go, they had a white fountain and a black fountain. Kids don't even know that. You drink water out of this fountain and had a fountain for whites and a fountain for blacks. See, experienced all of that. It was.
And there was a sign on it,
Yes.
a sign that would say, but it wasn't
Whites
black.
only and for blacks only.
Oh, really?
And I experienced some things that was really, it's a funny story. I stopped when I was working at Bergstrom as a young guy. Remember I told you I worked at Bergstrom?
Right.
And so when I'd leave in the evening, there was a little convenience store. And this was back in 57, 58, still in the 50s, right? I stopped at this store. I was going to take my grandfather some Bull Durham tobacco because he chewed tobacco. Well, I went in this store and all these white guys are there. And I went to the counter. I said, I want some Bull Durham. And the guy told me, it's Mr. Bull Durham. I know but I'm using that story to say how tough it was back then. So I've experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And the ugly.
Right.
And you came out on the other side. Sometimes I think that going through adversity, going through struggles, trials builds up character, especially when you're rooted in Christ, right? When you're already rooted in your faith.
Exactly, and by being grounded and rooted in Christ, some of my job opportunities led me to see things and have a different perspective. For example, I don't see things in black and white. I see a middle point, gray area.
Yes, because depending upon
Some people figure like it's either this or it's that. They don't look at the circumstances when they're dealing with people.
and see that's the thing I love about Christ, especially when he went to those places where people didn't want to go.
That's correct.
He sat and spoke with people that others said, why are you talking to them? But that's what we're called to do, is to be out there and go and be that light, be that beacon. And I'm sure on your job, as you go out, even though it's kill a bug and you're dealing with pest, you're a beacon of light and hope as you meet people.
Oh, big time. Big time. I think when you're on a job, it provides opportunities. A lot of people don't take it. And I had that opportunity as a probation officer because I was out in the community most of the time, dealing with families. And been in situations where you've been on a job and you don't know how many people and what they're going through. I've been in a situation, for example, I'll give you an example. A lady, you get just talking to people, you never know. And I'm just a happy-go-lucky camper, so I said, hey, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, not doing good. That's opening the door, right? I said, oh, I hate to hear that. She said, I'm at a point in my life, I'm even thinking about suicide. I'm just saying, you run into people and you really don't know. And if they trust you to the extent, some people feel comfortable sharing with you.
Yes.
And so by sharing, and we got to talking, and that's what your opportunity to do is open to, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about Christ? There's something else that can help you when nobody else can.
Yeah.
So, we have those opportunities, we don't take them. And, I used to have an issue, 11th and 12th Street. 11th Street, for example, when it was all black community. That's where everybody hung out in all the clubs, and all these sophisticated church people used to ride through there, and they'd keep their windows up. We were actually scared of it, And that's where, like you say, that's where Christ spent his time, that he come to save us. I mean,
Yes.
And I think in church today, one of the issues I have with church today is that I've heard from a lot of people, I said, well, hey, why don't you come visit church? They'll say, well, you guys have pretty clothes, and I don't have the kind of clothes to wear, and people look at me funny. So sometimes I think we set the stage for
Yeah.
running people off and bringing
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
in. Because they are scared they won't be accepted.
Right. And we don't always know how to remember where we came from.
That's correct.
And sometimes when we get to our state, we go, oh, I don't do that anymore. I can't go over there. I can't do this. But that's not what the word says. So I think we have done a disservice
That's correct.
to the body.
That's correct.
Yeah, we've done a disservice. But there's hope. You know, one thing I learned that the pandemic, I was grateful for the pandemic. The pandemic opened up some things that otherwise would not have been open in many of our churches. Whereas before the pandemic, it was a hard no about almost everything, you know. No, don't go online, and you got to bring your tithes and offerings. All these things physically you had to do. And then the pandemic hits, all bets are off.
That's correct.
And now we have a great, unique opportunity to be what God has asked us to be in the community for the people and be that light and that hope. That's one thing I'm really happy about that we're going to do a little bit of it that you guys are doing under the Seasoned Saints in a few weeks with a community event, bringing the community together, having the church folks out there embracing others, sharing what we're doing, and then also meeting people and knowing where they are. How can we be of service? Here's resources. How can we help? We're not looking for being a member of New Lincoln, but we want to introduce Christ to you. We want you to know who He is.
Fellowship is very important.
Very important.
Very important.
And I think in this day and age, these phones are, sometimes we don't know how to communicate with each other because we're too busy doing this. And we don't know how to sit.
Well, also, I'm not a high technology person, so I sympathize with some of our elderly people. Give you an example. At the grocery store, well, I'll go further than that. I went to the tax office, right? And now you just can't walk in and somebody sign you, and you know you have to scan this thing, and this poor little lady, this poor little man was standing there. One was about 80, my age, and they didn't know how to, you know, and they felt you're just ashamed to ask somebody.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't know how to. So when we had you down one time, you'd be surprised how many people my age don't know how to use cell phones. And me, the happiest time in my life is when I had my flip phone. That
Flip phone.
I could throw it upside the wall and it would operate. I'd answer calls, and then I could call out, and that was it. And nowadays, oh,
With this smartphone,
I
it's not that smart.
and now, but you know what? I tell my grandkids, and we have arguments. They say, "Well, Papa, you know," and they play with their phone, you know, and they talk about all this, how smart they are. I tell you what, I said, now, you be doing your homework, and y'all using computers, and you using calculators. I say, do you know what the 3 R's are? So what do you mean 3 R's? I said, I tell you one thing I learned: reading, writing,
And arithmetic.
and you guys, and you know what? That I can do some of this stuff you without a cap. You know what? Some of these people that work in these cashiers, if you take that away and they have to give you change,
They won't know how to do it. They won't know.
so it may be elementary, but that learning from back then, that reading, writing, arithmetic, that was important.
It's funny. I remember when microwaves first came out. Didn't know how to use the microwave, and then my baby now, if the microwave is not working, she doesn't know how to heat up food. Like you can do it on the stove. How do I do it on the stove? And I just thought, oh my gosh. Like some of the simple stuff, they really don't know how, because
Correct.
all of these conveniences have made us a little.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Most young women nowadays cannot cook a real full meal.
I can cook a real full meal. Amen.
Amen. And a lot of them can't do that.
Yes.
And most guys see. When I was in high school, I can wash iron and cook the whole, because you had to you're taught all that. And this day and time, a lot of them can't do that.
Yeah, all these conveniences, DoorDash, Uber, all that stuff. But what happens when those things are not available? What happens when you can't get to the grocery store? And what happens when you have fresh food and you got to figure out how to whip up something? They don't have all those skills. And I'm grateful for you, Deacon Bell, because I could just imagine being out in the country. My grandmother lived, my mom's mom, she had not a farm, but they had chickens, ducks, and then they had a garden. And she would make us, I remember going back and going out to go get the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't listen to her properly. Went to go get, she said, don't go in there when the rooster's in there. And I went in there when that crazy rooster was in there. And he started trying to come get me when I was trying to get them eggs. But I just remember like going and picking fruit off the tree or getting the plants out, or getting the vegetables out the ground, and that's what we ate. We didn't go to the grocery store, you know.
Give you another experience.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you we moved to Austin. I was about 5 or 6 years old, right?
Right.
Ralph's grocery store, and people back then, we bought groceries on credit. We bought groceries on credit. I mean, we were poor. And we moved to Austin, and my grandparents took me down to Ralph's groceries. My grandfather ended up working down there, driving a truck, and I went in there and I was startled. I had never seen a chicken on ice before in my life.
Really?
Because in the country I grew up, we killed them off.
And you do that little...
Yeah, exactly. I'd never seen chickens, and I've never really been in big stores before. Coming out of the country,
That's right.
Born in 1944 now. You're talking about 1950 by 50. I mean, back then, I mean, it was, we'd only come to town for just basic things in the country. The biggest thing in my life when I was a kid is the association. Now people don't talk about it.
Okay, talk.
Everybody would come out of the country for the association. You got to meet these little girls, and everybody was running around, and everybody brought food. Families came from everywhere, some on wagons. And
Someone was saying that there was a lady that had a wagon where people took their horse and buggy, or...
we had a wagon. Back then, Mr. Remember, I told you my grandfather plowed. We talking about the 40s, and we talking about back then, transportation. That was it, and people came from miles around out of the country. So I was born by a midwife. See, we didn't have the luxuries of doctors and all that kind of stuff. We grew out in the country. Midwives and
so she came to the house and delivered you.
Mm-hmm. But the association was a big, big thing. Families you got to see, you wouldn't see them again. We picked cotton, and you'd see them, but you wouldn't see families until association a lot.
Now, back then, so they were there the whole week.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The associations even exist now, and I should know that.
It still does now because of the
But it's nothing
damage.
like what I'm talking about.
Right, yeah, we don't. Yeah, even when the building was there, it wasn't as elaborate as what you guys experienced.
Exactly. And it was
And y'all spent the night out there, though.
That's right. It was, like I said, everybody bought pies and cakes, and it was a...
It was almost like a family reunion gathering type of thing.
It was. And, we didn't even have, people baptized now in these nice big old pools. I was baptized in the river. That was it. Creeks and rivers was, didn't have all this stuff now that we have. So. But again, it was just the spirit was high, everybody, it was just a whole different ballgame.
Wow.
than what I see now.
Than what you see now.
And I've learned that, too, it's how you treat people how you want to be treated. And first impressions can make a whole big difference.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Now, we didn't talk about the gospel Southern Airs.
Okay? Some quartet.
You have an amazing voice.
But basically, that's something else. I've always kind of been in the background doing things, and I just hate, but back then I sung background and some lead. But guys, having fun again with the guys.
You guys recorded some songs too, right?
Huh?
You guys recorded some songs.
Way back, I don't even know where those tapes went to.
I was going to ask you if I was going to find those tapes.
The Quartet Association was very popular back then. You had Elmer Akins, who promoted it. He had his own show, and he promoted it, and you had quartets coming from everywhere, and so it was a lot of fun, and I sung background and.
You want to give us a little bit today?
No, no. I don't know. Your husband always trying to get me to sing.
I know. I want you to sing.
I can't remember.
You have such an amazing
I can't remember.
voice. I love when we do our own devotions, and whether it's This Little Light of Mine or When I Rose, and then Deacon Bell gets up and starts belting us like, yes, get him the mic.
Yeah, I used to. Back in the day, I could. I sang rhythm and blues too when I was in college.
You did.
I spent a lot of time in Houston with groups singing, shooting the breeze. It was a character.
Mm-hmm.
Had fun.
Now, too bad we didn't have like Facebook back then and pictures and those cameras.
But my church experience was different back then because people brought the Spirit with them. I mean, those old folk back then, it was, and
they didn't have a relationship.
They did not have the quality of musicians that you have now. Some of them just foot tapping it. Believe me, church be on fire. It was an experience.
Wow.
And we've gotten away from all the old hymns, I love the Lord, He heard my cry. All those old hymns have kind of gone to the side. And I like contemporary music too, but
we need to blend it a little better.
I'll tell you what, contemporary music is lovely. But if you get on your deathbed or you get really down, you want to hear some Jesus keep me near the cross. You want to hear that old down outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of more, we'll get up out of here, but what, as you're over the Seasoned Saints, which is a very unique and special group.
It is.
I've had an opportunity to kind of be a fly on the wall at some of y'all's engagements, and tell me about this group and like why do they have so much energy and love and life, and just this group just is a.
I don't want to really say I really take credit for it. However, I think if a group setting comes from the top down, how you set it up. If you want it to be a stiff-necked kind of group, that's what it'll be. If you want it to be a fun, open, respectful type group, that's what it'll be too.
Well, and that's from you, though.
It kind of fits.
Yes, and that's you. Like you bring out. It is great to see 60 and above, but most everybody's in their 70s and 80s, I think. But it's great to see this group get together and talk and laugh and share. And what I think is important is sometimes, when we don't really celebrate our elders. It's almost as if, okay, you're retired now. Y'all gone over there. And,
Yes, they become bench warmers.
Right.
And they kind of a lost group. They end up sitting. And I come to find out just here recently the importance of visiting. I had been telling always, one policy of us is anybody goes in the hospital or if they out sick, we send flowers. That's part of our policy. We send flowers to them. If they're in the hospital more than 3 days, we'd take a flower to them, and then we'd take a card. Right. But we had a couple of members that have been down for like a year, and then some of them have been down longer. And I went to visit them myself. And just realizing how happy these people are to have somebody to see them, I said to myself, I need to start doing more than that. So you never get through growing, and the growth process is an ongoing thing. And so,
Yeah.
So then I set goals for myself and start trying to visit them more.
I love that. And I just believe that as long as there's breath in your body, God can still use you, regardless of the age.
As a matter of fact, I was talking to the pastor, and I wanted to get his opinion about, is that something we can and can't? He said, man, that's. There are only, I think, about 4 or 5, maybe 4 churches that I know that have a active senior group at their church. And 19th Street, I know, and Mount Zion, and some others. But I have been approached by some at other churches that don't have a senior. Say, wait, could we join y'all? You doing this and that? And so I ran about it and said, man, that's the fellowship. So I'm looking at maybe adding to what we have. Because with me, I'll invite some chickens to come. If
Let's
they
go.
Want to serve? Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. I love it. Deacon Bill, thank you so much for just sitting down and having this conversation with me. You are a hoot.
Right.
Deacon Robertson is not lying. You are a hoot.
Probably so. Probably so. I tell you.
I love it. And I think more, as the more that we can share, learning from young and old and all of us, it just brings us closer together. And it creates a human experience. 1. 2, it allows us to get to know each other. And then 3, we can share the gospel. I mean, how great is that to sit with somebody and be able to say, let me just tell you about a man that I know.
Been there.
Yeah.
I told you, I love singing too, right? And I share with Pastor. See, he and I, we talk all the time. I was telling him, I said, one of my favorite songs. He said, what is it, Bill? I said, it is by Kenny Rogers. And to me, that song tells a story to all of us. It says you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to run and walk away. So that says a lot if you look at it from another angle.
See, wise words. That's why we got to sit at the feet of our elders sometimes. Get some wise words.
Think about that song.
Yeah, that's
It was meant as the gambler, but
but
if you look at the words,
yeah,
you have to know
when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Think about that.
Yeah,
That stays with me.
and that's a life lesson. That's life.
Some of us don't know when to walk away.
We sure don't. Or when to run.
Or when to run. That's it.
So on that note, thank you again, Mr. Arthur Bell. Great conversation,
Enjoyed it.
as always.